Welcome to Computing with Dr. D. This is the second part of our first tutorial learning the C# language. We're doing a bit of procedural programming in Visual Studio, simply using the main method at the moment, doing kind of spaghetti programming, asking a few questions and getting a computer to talk to us. It's called Talking Computer. As you can see, this is Talking Computer V2, version 2. This was the first question I asked in the first tutorial part of this section. The second question will go here, and other questions will follow. In this tutorial, I want to add a few questions. As I said earlier, I hope that you might have added your own questions, but in this case, I'm going to add 4 or more simple questions, and I'm going to have a score if the user got the answers right according to the robot/computer, and we'll end up by giving you a score, and I'll also get you to have your user give your user the capacity to loop around in the program and attempt the test after they've already done it, and then choose to end the program. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a few questions, and I'll also add a score. Let me just do the first little bit of that. Now, the first thing I'd like to do is to get us to add the score. I'm going to use another variable type here. I'm going to use an integer to carry the score, and inside that integer variable type, the data type here is an integer. Let me just document that. So I'll just say integer data type. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to add 1 to that score variable each time someone gets an answer correct, and later on I'll output that to the screen. I think you should already know how to do that. Down here I'm going to add the second question. Now what I will do is I'll come back to you with it typed up, and I'll add a couple more questions and then discuss that with you as we go along. Then at the end I'll put a looping for while around the whole code to give you an idea how to keep your program open. So here I've I've written the second question, and it's about the father of the modern computer. And so here we go. The next 5 questions will be given. So I'm reading from here, the second question. These next 5 questions will be given a score so I can test your intelligence. Who is known as the father of the digital computer? And the answer is Charles Babbage. Now, you wouldn't be expected to know that, I wouldn't think, really, but he invented the difference engine. He was a mechanical engineer, a mathematician, philosopher, inventor, and he came up with the term of digital programming a machine, and he came up with the idea, well, he had an actual programmable physical machine. Anyway, he's an interesting character in computer history, and our robot/computer is asking how we are going with these various questions. So I've got the question here. I've got the else if, no idea, don't know. I've also got that's not correct, don't feel too bad, blah, blah, blah. First inventor, perhaps you're trying to be funny if you meant to write something else. Really, what I need to do now that I've got this score, I've got that score, but I haven't added any numbers to the score. So I want, the score to be collected and incremented, have one added to it every time you get a correct response. I won't take one off if you get an incorrect response, or the user does, but this answer that's correct here, brilliant, well done, I now need to add one to the score. It says score equals 0. Well, I'm just going to go score. Well, I can go score equals score plus 1. Now, that's okay. Every time you come then to that question, it'll add 1 to your score. The problem there is that I also then need to, when I finish the questions, I need to output the total score. So let's go down the bottom here under our questions and output that score. We should already know that console write line is how we write to the screen. Visual Studio there has added that for us. So we're going to add our score. We will say your total score was, and then we're going to say, we'll output the score, which is plus score. Now, obviously, the total score here can only be 0 or 1, but nevertheless, we have no errors down the bottom. So we should at least run this program and you can have a look at how it goes if we get it correct. So let's write a correct response. Let's run our program. We have here, hello human, let me ask you a few questions. Tell me your name. I'll go Dave. Good to meet you, Dave. How are you feeling today? And I'll say, okay, that's great to hear, but I feel the same as always. How about I ask you a few questions? Okay, Dave, these next 5 questions will be given a score so that I can test your intelligence. Who is known as the father of the digital computer? Now, we know it's Babbage, and notice I don't have a capital there, but I'm using the surname. Press enter. That's brilliant. Well done. Your total score was 1. So my program's working, but I need to add some more questions. So what I'm going to do now is to add all of the next 4 questions. I have a total of 5 questions, and you should do the same. So you should pause this program here, or the video here, and come back to writing the program and have a look at my questions later, and you can check your questions against my code to see how you've gone. Hopefully your score will total up to 5 at the end if you get all of your questions correct. And after that, I'm going to do a do-while loop to show you how to keep your program open until the user wants to end the program. So let's come back in a minute to that. I'll just write my questions in now. You do the same. I wonder how you went with your questions. I wrote mine down and I'll show you what I wrote now. Mine are all about computer science and famous computer scientists and things about computers. So maybe some of these things will come up in computer tests that you might have, or maybe not. Anyway, some trivia questions, really. The first question we've already done, but the first scored question is the one here I've got. Look at the top here. Okay, and your name. These next 5 questions will be given a score so that I can test your intelligence. Who is known as the father of the digital computer? And the answer is Babbage, Charles Babbage. That's brilliant. Well done. Score 1 plus score equals score plus 1. No idea, don't know. Babbage was the first inventor to come up with the idea of a digital programming machine, or you could have an else there as well. The second scored question. Now you can copy these down. You can pause this screen and come back to it. Copy the question down, put it in your program. We have score equals score plus 1 again, but I'm going to change that now because if you keep in mind that this is C#, which comes from C++ as one of the main C-based languages, score plus plus should increment the score by 1 as well. So we'll see if that works, and I'll do that the same down here before we run our program. Didn't mean to do that, but anyway, let's just get back to it. Score plus plus. It is well known that computers can only read computer programs when they are delivered to the computer in a special type of number. What Is this number form? One word. It's binary or binary. I allow the capital or not the capital. That's impressive. You were going, well, no idea, don't know, etc., etc. And then our answer, if you didn't get it correct, is given to you. Binary is a form of base 2 numbers comprised only of zeros and ones. You've probably heard of bits. A bit can be 0 or 1, and a byte is 8 zeros or ones in sequence. A byte as in a chunk of information that the computer can read. So the computer converts sequences of these numbers into all output, audio, video, text, etc., images. Question 3. Who is credited with inventing the field of computer science as well as artificial intelligence? The answer is Turing, Alan Turing. And again, Turing helped crack codes during World War II and developed the idea of an intelligent machine and a test for machine intelligence known as the Turing machine. And what we're writing here is a type of Turing machine. If your user thinks it's talking to someone of vague intelligence on the other side of the computer screen, when it's using your program, then your program has passed the Turing test, or the Turing, and you've invented a Turing machine. The fourth scored question: what is the name of the computer that first beat the world chess champion in 1997? It is Deep Blue, who was a supercomputer invented just to beat Garry Kasparov. There's that question if you want to copy that down. Notice that for each of these questions, I have changed the variable. I need to I don't need to, but I am keeping the variable a different name for each response for each of the 5 questions. So I have answer 5, answer 6, etc. down here. And the name of the software developer in the Fortran and COBOL languages was Grace Hopper. She was, I think, a vice admiral or something in the war. She worked on computer codes. She was a very early computer programmer, software developer, and actually was part of the team inventing and writing and developing Fortran and COBOL languages, and she's credited as the main inventor of those languages. So very important person in the history of computing. Grace Hopper, famous software developer, and they were crucial programming languages for many years. Some of you, even if you go to university, might have to learn some COBOL because it's still used out in industry. There's some kind of redundant code out there. Now, I said we'd be looping around this whole thing. What we don't want to loop around is anything really that's not scored. We don't want to talk about how you're feeling today because that's the first question. But we do maybe want them to repeat their test. So we could ask if they want to repeat the test again. So let's put a do while loop around this. So we're going to go do. Now that means that the code inside the do and the whiles down the bottom, that means that the code inside here, the code inside this do while loop will repeat until we give a particular response. Now we'll just go down the bottom here. Now we want the score to come up after we've done the test. So we want the while down the bottom here, and we're going to put 2 smooth brackets there. And we're going to also have another curly bracket there. And I think we'll just put the while up next to our curly bracket. Now you might notice there that the text is now indented. If we go right up to the top with that while, we can follow that do all the way down here like this to our bottom of our code, and till we finally get to our while. Now you notice that because we've got so many of these different questions, and now we see we've got an error. We have invalid expression bracket. We need a semicolon to finish our line there. So we'd better make sure we get there. Line 121. We need to write something in between these brackets. We need certainly to ask our user whether they want to continue. So let's use a little string and we'll get a response from them, a yes or a no if they want to continue. And then we'll work out if they want to continue or not. So we'll go, all right, we'll go answer 7. We'll just use answer 7, why not? String answer 7, console read line. And obviously the computer has to ask them, do they want to continue? So let's do a console write line to get that happening. So we should be able to just go write line here and tab across, and the computer can then ask the user, do you wish to try the test again? Now I'm going to make a little error here, and you'll see what the error is when we come to run the program, but don't worry about that for the moment. Seems to tell me I've got another invalid. Oh, it's got that while. Do you wish to try the test again? And so we're going to say while the answer is yes. So we're actually going to say string answer console read line, and ooh, well, that's probably not going to work, is it? Anyway, while the answer 7, yeah, it doesn't exist in the current context, so I know what I'll do. But while answer is yes, or remember our or, just this logic thing, I'm giving a sequence of possible responses. We could say if the answer 7 is equivalent to y, or it might be equivalent to, maybe they've got their caps lock stuck and they're answering yes. So we can just choose those. So it's going to continue while that's happening. Now it says it doesn't exist in the current context. It would be better if we declared our answer 7 or our response here. I think we're going to have response. Well, let's just call it response. So I know I've changed it, but now I'm going to have to change these around. Anyway, just makes more sense to me. So we're going to have a response here, which is breaking apart from what our responses were from the questions, which we called answer 1, answer 2, answer 3. Now, the name response doesn't exist in any context because we haven't defined it as a variable type. I need to go right up the top. Now, this type of code is called spaghetti code. It's pretty bad programming. Just want you to know that. Old procedural programming of this type, spaghetti code. In any case, we're going to go up the top here and we're going to use this response string. I said integer. That's a bit silly, but anyway, we're going to say string response, and we're going to give it a empty string to sit in. Now you notice down the bottom the errors are have now vanished. So we certainly should be saving all of our code there, and we can now run our test and see how we go. We know the answers, so we can try and get them all right. If we're going to really test the program, we should be trying all of the possible responses for every question, for every single possible or, and every single possible else if or else. Everything needs to be tested. So let's go again, and we're running it. So we'll bring the run program over here. Hello, human. Let me ask you a few questions. Tell me your name. We'll say Grace Hopper. Good to meet you, Grace Hopper. How are you feeling today? Good, that's great to hear, but I feel the same as always. How about I ask you a few questions? Okay, Grace Hopper, these next 5 questions will be given as scores so that I can test your intelligence. Who is known as the father of the digital computer? We should try a different answer, shouldn't we? Charles Babbage. Oh, that won't work though, will it? Since we know our answers, we have to have a capital B. Let's try that. That's brilliant. Well done. It is well known that computers can only read computer programs delivered in the special type of number. It's binary, remember? So I'll go binary. That's impressive. You're going well. Who is credited with inventing the field of computer science as well as artificial intelligence? Okay, let's try Turing. You on board with this? That's amazing, tremendous. What is the name? I should have an actual line break there, shouldn't I? You were going well. You can have a look for that line break and fix it up, or make sure you get it right with your \n in your own program. What is the name of the computer that first beat the world chess champion in 1997? Remember, it was Deep Blue? There we go. That's great. As a computer, I salute you. What is the name of the software developer of the Fortran and Co? Well, we know that because that's our name here, isn't it? So we'll just say Hopper. That's so good. I'm so proud of you. Do I wish to try the test again? Now, I'll show you where the problem is. I'm going to say yes. The father of the digital computer, we'll say Peanut. Computers can read binary. Smith. Name of the computer that first beat the world chess champion. Oh, that would have been the Atari. What do you think? Maybe I'm making a joke. Yes, well, what is the name of the software developer of the Fortran and Cobol? All right, so we'll say Hopper. Now, do I wish to try the test again? This time I'm going to say no. And now, it says my total score was 6. Now, why? I thought it was 7, but if you look there, I said Hopper without the O. That's my typing again. Never mind. But my total score was 6, showing that what I haven't done is to actually get a score assigned to 0 again at the start of our test. So to fix it up and finalize my program, what I really need to do is to go into the program here. And when I'm asking the first scored question here, you see how I've got this, the score of 0 there, which has been declared as an integer data type. If I do that down here and I go, okay, at the top of our do, when I'm doing the questions, I want, when I go back to the top of that do, when I've said I do want to do the questions again, I go back to the top of that logic, I should make my score 0 again. So if I go score equals 0, there, now there's no errors down the bottom, so I save it again. So let's quickly do the program again, and I'll see if I can go through and get some, correct my name, doesn't matter really. How am I feeling today? That's interesting. Righto, who's known as the father of the digital computer? Babbage. Read binary. Inventing computer science is Turing. The name of the computer that first Deep Blue. And the name of the software engineer was Hopper. Okay, do I wish to try the test again? Now we know we got 5 then. So if I say yes, and then I just get 1 correct, so I'm going to the father of the digital computer was Babbage. Okay, so we know that's correct. So I'm just going to go F for the rest of them. And then it says my total score was 1. So I should have got a total score of 6, but I got a total score of 1 because I zeroed off the score just at the top of the do while loop. There's our finished first program. It's a lot of text. It's 129 lines of code. Next time what I'll do is show you how to break up some of those questions into different sections. We'll use a few methods and we'll be able to give you some options of how to do a few of these things. We can have multiple choice questions and all sorts of things. You might be surprised at the number of lines of code you use in these things, but in any case, thanks for watching. If you got to the end of this, you've done really well. I know that it's been a lot of learning experience here. There's been a lot of IT in this simple programming. And if your program's working well, I think you've done an excellent job. So great work there. I look forward to seeing you again online. If you want to do another one of my tutorials, I'll be doing a few more of these. So enjoy the rest of your day.